I would like to begin by introducing the League of California Cities President and the Mayor of the town of Yountville, John Dunbar. John?
Jill, thank you very much. Thank you for everyone that is participating on today's call, and I want to thank in advance all of our speakers today for representing their communities and their efforts to help cities throughout California. During this pandemic, cities have stepped up by enacting emergency orders. They've established COVID-19 testing sites, protecting public health workers and residents, and we've been supporting local economic activity so that they can operate safely. These actions have saved lives and supported small businesses, but they've also resulted in significant unplanned expenditures that are depleting city budgets. At the same time, California cities are facing a devastating decline in tax revenues, a projected $7 billion in revenue shortfalls over the next 2 years that grow worse every day we continue to have public health orders in effect. Cities are already being forced to retool budgets, cut city staff, and reduce critical public services our residents depend on. In my tourism-focused town of Yountville in the Northern California Napa Valley, approximately 75% of our general revenues disappeared almost overnight as state orders shut down our hotels, restaurants, retail, and other business activity. And despite the severe losses to our town budget, we allowed our shuttered hotel operators to defer hotel tax payments because of the closures. We knew that those were devastating them as well. This happened during a time when we typically would see 80 to 90% occupancy in our lodging sector, and that stretched our limited fund balances even further. To support our other local small businesses that were temporarily closed and then reopened but with limited operations, we created a business support program to permit outdoor service so they could rehire employees and recover at least a portion of their regular revenues. Now we're at risk of losing the funding support that we have been using for Napa County's COVID-19 mobile testing as we try to control our positivity rate and recover the public health crisis with our residents and our workforce. Our nation, our state and our nation is in a crisis. Our national leaders must return to the negotiating table immediately and come to an agreement that provides cities of all population sizes direct and flexible federal resources to offset these expenses and the revenue shortfalls. We urge Congressmember Cook to stand up for the recovery in this particular region as we reach out to our representatives throughout California by supporting a return to negotiations and including $500 billion in direct, flexible funding to local governments in this latest and hopefully last needed coronavirus relief package. Federal relief is critical to local governments so we can maintain core services and guide the reopening and economic recovery in all of our communities. National economic recovery does not happen without a commitment from our federal government to address the significant and ongoing revenue shortfalls and skyrocketing costs that local governments have experienced and will continue to experience. Cities have been told for months now, our time will come. Our communities cannot afford to wait any longer. Millions of Americans in cities of all sizes are depending on both the White House and Congress to proceed with negotiations immediately and provide the support our communities need and deserve. Thank you again for being a part of our call today. Jill, back to you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Dunbar. And now I'd like to introduce the League of California Cities Executive Director, Carolyn Coleman. Carolyn?
Thank you, Jill, and thank you, Mayor Dunbar, for those remarks. Hello to everyone, and thank you for being on our call today. As Mayor Dunbar mentioned, this pandemic is devastating lives. It's also, to be frank with you, blowing a hole through our city budgets and in the resources needed to slow the spread and to help our communities recover and reopen. In a recent survey of California cities, 9 out of 10 cities say they will have to cut services and staff to residents with this loss of funding. And nearly 3 in 4 report they may have to do both. That means fewer first responders like Frank Lima, who's on the call with us today, fewer first responders to answer emergency calls. It means reduced frequency of trash pickup in our neighborhoods. It means delayed repairs to streets and sidewalks, delayed inspections and permitting, and limited hours for parks and senior centers. Those are just a few of the core services that are at risk today if we don't get more funding. Cities are the economic engine of our state, and they are the backbone of our country. But there can be no economic recovery without a clear commitment from the federal government to help cities address the staggering revenue shortfalls and the skyrocketing cost we have been forced to incur because of the shutdown of our economies and our communities brought about by COVID-19. And that's why we're here today. We're calling on Congressman Cook, along with his House and Senate colleagues and the White House, to get back to the negotiating table and to include $500 billion in direct and flexible funding for every local government in this country in the next, and as John said, hopefully the last, hopefully we won't need more, coronavirus relief package. Cities have supported and protected our residents and our businesses throughout the many months of this pandemic. It is now time for the federal government to step up and to support our cities so that we can be a strong partner in kickstarting the economy and helping our communities recover. Thank you again for joining today's call. Jill?
Thank you very much, Carolyn. And now I'd like to introduce the Town of Apple Valley's Mayor, Scott Nassif. Mayor Nassif?
Good afternoon. And thank you for hearing the voice of some of our communities here in California, in particular here in San Bernardino County. I could just say thank you, Mayor Dunbar, ditto, and be done with it, because it truly affects all of us here in California, and in particular here in Southern California, San Bernardino County. For us, you know, I am also president of the Desert Mountain Division, so we do have two destination communities, Big Bear Lake and Mammoth Lakes, that are part of our division. The rest of our division is pretty much made up of rural communities, none of which are over the 200,000 population, and there are no communities in San Bernardino County that are close to the 500,000 population that the first round of CARES Act gave some funding to. And if you remember, some of the other funding was filtered through the state and county, and none of us had received that. And we are truly impacted by this, the economy, the effects on the economy from the closures of businesses. For us, I want to personalize a little bit. We have been, it is a hot topic with us. That was the main topic at our last division meeting in June. We have a regional Victor Valley meeting coming up on Thursday, and we'll be talking about that. As many cities in California, we're dependent on primarily sales tax and property tax, and we were still working on coming back from the last recession, even though it was 10, 12 years ago. Our property values are just now probably about where they were 12 years ago. Our sales tax has been impacted with the online retailers. We don't have those in our region, not too much in San Bernardino County and our Desert Mountain Division. So on top of the pandemic that beholds us here in 2020, we were already working on funding issues. So that's something that impacts us, obviously, with the services that we can provide. What we're trying to do for us personally in Apple Valley, we have about a $35 billion general fund, which is our discretionary funds that we spend on public safety, family services, trying to work through issues. We do have a reserve, which is being used currently because our funding from last year, the impact from our reduction in business and services and revenues was about $1.7 million, which was 5%. And next year are projected for our 2020-21 losses due to the pandemic and the reduction in businesses is about $3.5 million, which is 10% of our total general fund, which is it's a big impact to us. Our reserves are only about 10%, so we're going to be through those this year, and we're still expected to provide those services, essential services, to our community. And we're also, I talked to my town manager about the impacts of COVID-19 on our personally. We're impacted just like businesses are. We've had some cases where we've had to let people go home, family members being quarantined, employees being quarantined and not being at work, being productive. That impacts our budget as well, our payroll, our productivity to our residents. So I think these issues do need to be discussed with our congressman. We have been in contact with him, letting them know the impacts, Congressman Cook, in our district. We are hoping and watching and praying that our legislators in the federal government understand the impacts they have. We are where, I always say, where the rubber meets the road here in local government. And we are, when folks have issues, they come to us first and expect us to provide those services that they need. And so we would hope that we'd have that support from the federal government as we move forward, so we can continue to provide those services. Otherwise, yes, we're looking at some January mid-year budget, some severe cuts that we're already talking at our council meetings about, and could include public safety and sworn officers as well. So thank you again for listening to us and hearing our concerns, and hopefully we'll have some good positive things to report back over the next few months. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Nassif. And with that, I would like to introduce the 10th District Vice President for the International Association of Firefighters, Captain Frank Lima. Captain Lima.
Thank you very much, Jill. And I'd like to start by thanking President Dunbar and Executive Director Coleman and the League of Cities for including the International Firefighters Association of Firefighters, the IAFF, in this important conference. I am fortunate to represent every professional firefighter in New Mexico, Arizona, California, Hawaii, and Guam. And I am out of the great state of California here in Los Angeles. Firefighters have been on the front lines of this COVID response, ensuring the health and safety of our communities 24/7, and we have not had the luxury to work out of our houses. Many of our firefighters have contracted this disease and have lost their lives as well. And it's clear that this pandemic's not going away. As COVID-19 infection rates rise at an alarming rate and wildland fire season gets underway, we stand ready to answer the call. This would be a disastrous time to cut any fire departments. We need firefighters on the line to not only help mitigate this pandemic and be ready to contain the wildfires, but on a daily basis, answer the 911 calls of our communities. We strongly urge Congressmember Cook and the 52 other congressional members in California to support critical public safety and local services by including $500 billion in direct, flexible funding to local governments. Cities shouldn't be forced to cut services that protect health and safety. People's lives are on the line right now. We don't want to be forced to make cuts to fire and EMS. Longer response times would be very detrimental to our communities. So in wrapping it up, we ask Congress members to put safety of your constituents first, provide needed federal aid to local governments, not just for cities with populations above 500,000, but the small rural areas and fire protection districts as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Captain Lima. We also have here with us today the president of the California Park and Recreation Society, and also the City of Roseville Park and Park Planning and Development Superintendent, Tara G.
Thanks, Jill. Good afternoon. Some city services, such as Parks and Recreation, are not typically considered essential or among the hardest hit, yet these services are the soul of a community's quality of life. Families, especially those on low incomes, depend heavily on childcare and recreation activities operated by city park and recreation departments. Parks and recreation programs are disappearing because of depleted city budgets. Federal funding for cities would not only keep city workers off the unemployment line, but also many members of our community who are suddenly forced to choose between jobs and their children. Parks and Recreation Services are a vital community service committed to a positive quality of life. We are the fabric of the community that interweaves economic development, social equity, health and wellness, both physical and mental, and crime prevention. Our services reaches all segments of our communities. From the onset of COVID-19, cities responded to take care of the residents, including our parks, recreation, and library services. We've created virtual programs and care packages that have helped keep families active and engaged within their communities. We've partnered with nonprofits to help food-challenged families and individuals. Seniors are the most vulnerable segment of our population, and while senior centers are shut down, Parks and Recreation Services are finding ways to stay connected in order to combat isolation and depression. And now we are partnering with our schools to assist with new distance learning programs as schools remain closed. Our parks, trails, and open spaces are being utilized more than ever by our residents. In a recent statistic, the range of increased use varies from 76% to over 200%. It is imperative that cities are able to maintain our parks, trails, and open spaces, as this responsibility ensures safe public use while serving to re-energize mental wellness and providing physical health. Revenue shortfalls are threatening our city's ability to keep up with these services due to budget cuts and layoffs. Our residents are looking for us now more than ever, and if cities are not part of this relief package, our staff and services could be even more significantly reduced, if not totally eliminated. We can't let the soul of our California cities suffer. As mentioned earlier, our parks, programs, and services are a vital community service. This means that equal access to our services that provide health and wellness will be cut, leaving low-income individuals and families in need. We need your support to continue offering services to those who need us the most. Our statewide mission as parks and recreation professionals is to make lives better for our residents now and in the future. And our communities have arguably never needed our assistance more than they do right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tara. Yeah, and for a few closing remarks, I'd like to give it back to Mayor Dunbar.
I believe we have one more speaker before we come to me.
I am so sorry. Yes, we do. Apologies for that. We have with us the SoCalGas Public Affairs Manager, Deborah McGary. Apologies for that, Deborah, and please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. And again, thank you so much, Jill. We appreciate that. So SoCalGas partners with more than 230 cities across the service territory to provide affordable and reliable natural gas services to our customers. During this difficult time, we're proud to stand alongside our firefighters, our public works departments, and other essential city services to support the League of California Cities Support Local Recovery Coalition. We work closely day in and day out with city staff and local elected officials to ensure safe and reliable natural gas services for our citizens. So we know just how very important city services are. We see firsthand that cities provide the glue to hold our communities together. We know today how badly our cities and city services are hurting, and that in turn is hurting our communities. Since March 17th, SoCalGas has donated millions of dollars to nonprofits throughout our service territory to support regional workforce, feeding the hungry, and providing bill assistance to customers most affected by COVID-19, and to assist COVID-19 programs and services throughout our service territory. So that is why SoCalGas joins our communities in asking for support for local recovery. And this is the right thing to do to maintain and revitalize our communities during such a difficult time. So thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you, Mayor Dunbar, and the rest of the panel for this opportunity to speak and to show our support for the communities that we serve so proudly.
Thank you very much, Deborah. Appreciate that. And at this point, I will hand it back to Mayor Dunbar for a few concluding remarks.
Jill, thank you. And again, thank you to all of our representatives that have spoken so far today, and we'll entertain any questions our participants may have as well. Just in summary, we are truly in a crisis right now, and cities need the support of our federal leadership to help us recover economically and to protect our residents from a public health crisis that none of us have ever seen in our lifetimes. Our leaders need to act now, get back to negotiation, find the resources, and trust that city leaders, town leaders are a great investment. We have pledged and have shown a track record of transparency, accountability. So these dollars that we're requesting from the federal government, we have also requested from our state partners to support us at the very local level. This is where the public health response has taken place. This is where the economic impact has been felt. And that's where the economic recovery is going to happen, on our streets, in our small, our large cities. The CARES Act funding was certainly helpful. We appreciate also Member Cook supporting additional funding for small counties. But we at the city level, frankly, did not see much of that funding come through the CARES Act because of the restriction on population size that was alluded to earlier. 478 of our 482 cities did not qualify because of our population number being below 500,000. Some of the money that did come from Washington that went to states has not made its way through counties to cities. And the amount of money that did trickle down to the local level has frankly been insufficient given the incredible costs associated with the pandemic response and the economic losses. In my town of just under 3,000 residents, we got the minimum $50,000. It's appreciated, but we've projected a loss of 6 million. And so you can understand the scope of the impact cities all across the state of California. So we ask and urge immediate reaction in Washington, at the White House, with our congressional representatives. And we have reached out to all of our representatives throughout California to do the right thing, to support cities, to support our and their residents and communities. Thank you.